In the world of paranormal investigation, some cases haunt you long after they're over. They linger in the back of your mind, resurfacing when you least expect it, as if the story itself refuses to be forgotten. The Smurl family story is one of those, an unsettling tale that has echoed through the years, whispered about by those who study the unexplained. In 1974, Jack and Janet Smurl, along with their young daughters Dawn and Heather, moved into a modest duplex on Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. The house, with its unassuming facade and quiet neighborhood, seemed like the perfect place to build new memories. The home was shared with Jack's parents, creating a sense of togetherness and support. For the Smurls, it was a chance to start over, to leave behind old troubles and embrace a brighter future. For a year, life was blissfully ordinary. Birthdays were celebrated, walls were painted with fresh hope, and the laughter of children filled the yard. The Smurls settled into routines, believing they had finally found peace. But beneath the surface, something ancient and malevolent was waiting, hidden in the shadows and cracks of the old house. It watched, patient and silent, as the family went about their lives. The Smurls had no idea their peaceful life was about to be shattered. The comfort they felt was only a thin veil, soon to be torn away by forces they could never have imagined. This is a pattern seen in many haunting cases. A family moves in, everything seems fine, and then, slowly, the strange begins. The ordinary becomes tinged with unease and the familiar starts to feel foreign. At first it's easy to dismiss, the house settling, the wind rattling old windows, tricks of the mind after a long day. But sometimes the explanations run out and the unease grows. For the Smurls, this was the calm before the storm. The peace they cherished was about to be replaced by fear and confusion. The very foundation of their home was already compromised by an unseen presence, a force that would soon make itself known in terrifying ways. The initial tranquility made what happened next even more disturbing. The contrast between normalcy and the unknown only heightened the terror that followed. The paranormal doesn't always announce itself with a bang. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, embedding itself in the fabric of daily life before you realize you're under attack. It's the slow, insidious dread that is often the most terrifying. The Smurls were an ordinary family thrust into an extraordinary nightmare, forced to confront something no one could have prepared them for. Their story is a chilling reminder that the unseen world can invade our reality at any moment, turning the familiar into the unthinkable and leaving us forever changed. The first signs were subtle, a dark stain on new carpet, tools vanishing and reappearing in odd places. It was easy to dismiss these as mere coincidences or the result of forgetfulness. The family rationalized these oddities, blaming forgetfulness or accidents. They laughed it off, thinking it was just their minds playing tricks on them. But the activity didn't stop. It evolved. What started as minor inconveniences soon became more frequent and harder to ignore. Strange noises echoed at night, whispers from the walls, footsteps in empty halls, voices calling their names. The once quiet home was now filled with unsettling sounds. Foul odors would fill rooms, then vanish as quickly as they appeared. The smells were so strong they would wake the family from their sleep. These experiences were harder to explain away. The family began to feel a growing sense of unease. The unease grew stronger each day, shadows seemed to grow longer, and the atmosphere in the house became increasingly oppressive. TVs turned on and off, drawers slid open, toilets flushed themselves. The house seemed to have a mind of its own. Classic poltergeist activity, but to the Smurls it was just baffling. They were at a loss for explanations. The house no longer felt like their own. It was as if an unseen force had taken over their sanctuary. Janet recalled this as a time of growing dread. Curiosity quickly turned to fear. The family was on edge, constantly looking over their shoulders. The whispers became more frequent, the noises louder. It was as if the entity was feeding off their fear. The family felt watched, isolated, and worn down. They were prisoners in their own home. The psychological pressure was immense, making them question their sanity. They were desperate for answers, but none came. The foundation of fear was set. The entity was just getting started. The nightmare was only beginning. For nearly a decade, the Smurl family endured what began as low-level harassment, strange noises echoing through the night, objects shifting on their own, and an ever-present sense of unease that crept into their daily lives. At first, these disturbances seemed like minor annoyances, the kind of things you might blame on a draft or a restless pet, but the Smurls knew something was wrong. By 1985, the activity escalated dramatically. What was once unsettling became outright violent, transforming their home into a battleground. Temperatures would plummet without warning, chilling the air. Objects were hurled across rooms, and heavy furniture slid violently, as if pushed by invisible hands. Jack and Janet were physically attacked, pushed down the stairs by unseen forces. Their daughter Dawn was even levitated and thrown, leaving the family terrified and helpless. Shadowy figures began to appear, lurking in the corners of their vision. Among them was a grotesque, pig-like apparition that haunted their nightmares. The psychological torment was relentless, wearing down their spirits day after day. Sleep became impossible, and fear seeped into every moment. The attacks grew more personal and invasive. Janet and Jack reported being sexually assaulted by an unseen force, a violation that left them traumatized and isolated. This was no longer just fear, it was pure, unrelenting terror. Every shadow, every sound became a threat. Even Jack's parents, who lived next door, were not spared. They too experienced violent noises and saw objects move on their own, confirming the haunting was not isolated to one apartment. Their corroboration proved the events weren't just in Jack and Janet's heads. The terror was real, and it was spreading. The entire building seemed to be under siege, with lights flickering and walls trembling as if the house itself was alive with malevolent energy. The family was desperate, physically and mentally broken, clinging to each other for comfort as their world unraveled. They had tried to ignore the strange happenings, hoping it would all go away. But now, denial was no longer an option. They needed help. The haunting was no longer a secret. It was a siege. The Smurls felt trapped, watched, and utterly alone. The Smurls were at their breaking point, emotionally shattered and desperate for relief. With nowhere else to turn, they finally reached out for help, praying that someone, anyone, could save them from the nightmare that had consumed their lives. By 1986, the Smurls turned to Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned demonologists. Lorraine sensed a powerful, malevolent presence immediately. The Warrens concluded the house was infested by 4 entities, one a powerful ancient demon. They theorized the daughter's puberty may have triggered the escalation. Ed provoked the entity with religious music. The response was violent. Growls, shaking mirrors, foul stench. The Warrens captured chilling audio evidence. For the Smurls, this was terrifying but validating. Experts confirmed their ordeal was real. The demon, the Warrens said, was attached to the family, not just the house. Moving wouldn't help. Only a religious intervention could free them. The family's only hope was the Catholic Church and the rite of exorcism. With the Warrens involved, the entity grew more violent. Jack was pulled by an invisible force in front of Lorraine Warren. The attacks felt targeted, a direct response to their fight for help. The media caught wind, and the Smurls went public, hoping for church intervention. The story exploded. Reporters, cameras, and skeptics descended on their home. The entity seemed to revel in the attention, ramping up activity for the cameras. During interviews, strange knocks and mimicked voices unnerved everyone. The family lost all privacy, living in a fishbowl of scrutiny and terror. Support came, but so did ridicule and accusations of a hoax. The Smurls fought a two-front war against the entity and public disbelief. The pressure was immense, testing their resolve to the limit. Their nightmare was now a national spectacle. The Smurls, devout Catholics, turned to faith. Prayers, crucifixes, holy water. At first, these measures calmed the activity, but soon crosses were thrown, prayers mocked. The entity was undeterred by simple faith. The family pleaded with the diocese for a formal exorcism, but the church hesitated. A priest blessed the house, but the peace never lasted. The entity always returned, angrier than before. The family felt abandoned by the church, left to battle bureaucracy and skepticism. The Warrens brought in their own priest for unofficial exorcisms. These only intensified the activity. Foul odors, freezing temperatures, and terrifying manifestations followed. Despite their efforts, the entity remained. The Smurls' hope began to fade as even prayer seemed powerless. After months of pressure, the diocese authorized a formal exorcism in 1986. A priest performed the rite over several days, prayers, rituals, and violent paranormal outbursts. Horrific screams, flying objects, and shaking walls marked the entity's last stand. After the third day, an eerie calm settled. The family felt peace for the first time in years. For 3 months, life was normal. The Smurls began to heal, but the peace was short-lived. The activity returned, whispers, noises, foul odors. The demon had not been banished, only retreated. The family was devastated, their hope in exorcism shattered. The Warrens believed the demon was attached to Janet, not the house. In 1987, the Smurls moved, desperate to escape. But the question lingered: would the entity follow? The aftermath left them with more questions than answers. Their future was uncertain, the nightmare unresolved. From the start, the Smurls' story faced skepticism. Many accused them of fabricating the ordeal for money or fame, especially after book and movie deals. Local authorities and neighbors doubted their claims. Police saw nothing. Neighbors reported no activity. The town was divided. Some believed, others ostracized the family. Psychologists suggested shared delusion or stress-induced symptoms. Most evidence was anecdotal, lacking hard proof. The Smurls took lie detector tests, insisting their terror was real. The central conflict: personal experience versus scientific proof. For the Smurls, skepticism was almost as painful as the haunting. They fought not just an entity, but a world that refused to believe. In 1987, the Smurls fled Chase Street, hoping to escape the nightmare. Jack claimed the entity followed, though activity was less intense. The family tried to move on, but the trauma lingered. New tenants reported mixed experiences, some strange events, others nothing. The ambiguity deepened the mystery. Was the entity tied to the house, the family, or both? The Smurl case remains controversial: genuine haunting or elaborate hoax. The evidence is mostly anecdotal, fueling debate. Ultimately, the story leaves more questions than answers. The Smurls' terror was real to them, a chilling reminder of what may lurk just beyond our understanding.